Isn't Jack first comment?
No. It's changed. Let me share from the thing. So I did it on my personal button.
From onto what page?
Actually, I can do it. I can do Cherry, Good Vibes, Breaks, and what's my trading card worth all through card authority. It's like. And we go like this.
Posting is approval. Definitely slower uptake. 15. Wow, first comment. Fuck, promotion. It's okay. Let's get in there.
What audio is
That should be all sorted. Good evening, welcome to, I was about to say RGB Breaks, but no it's not, it's Card Authority, here on a Thursday night.
What episode are we up to?
Oh, 24, 25? Welcome to everyone on a Thursday night. G'day everyone, thank you Wado, Mitch, Glenn.
Hey Robert, hey Mason.
Yeah, g'day Robert and Mason, and of course, Jankovic. Welcome.
Welcome to you, my friend. This was a little bit out of the blue this episode.
Double echo mic, yes. Something weird's going on with the sound tonight. One sec. Let's see if that fixes it. Is that better? You turn that mic off. Yeah. Hopefully that fixes it. Is that better? Yep, that sounds better. Still echo? Hopefully that's better. No, that's better. Yep. No, there is an echo. What is going on here? I don't know where the sound's coming from tonight. Much better? All right, cool.
No, it's good.
I can hear background stuff. No, that sounds good.
That's cool.
Yeah, I think it's just my phone. Yeah, it's my phone. Yeah, that should be okay. Beautiful. Yeah, thank you very much for joining us. First time, Corey. So what happened during the week? Just a little side note. This is open mic night, so it's all about you guys. We're certainly going to be answering questions from you guys. The floor is yours. But I came into the office on Monday morning, and I can normally tell when Jankovic has been up late doing his conference calls and the things that he does.
The studio and the office is the same thing. Just take note. Well, it's a studio that AJ decided would become his office.
Well, I mean, someone's got to work around here. And suddenly there were some empty or half-drunken bottles of water, which is a clear sign that Jankovic has been here. There was some sort of random crisp or cracker that was sitting on the desk. And I turned my computer on, and my monitor was smashed. This monitor here. You guys won't see it, obviously. And it was not smashed once, but it was smashed twice. There were also some other weird lights mounted on different things. So I'm on the phone. I'm like, cover your ears if you're under 18. What the fuck is going on with my monitor, Jenks? And you're like, what? So anyway, we had to rewire everything tonight.
We did get a new monitor. The moral of the story is that the monitor for AJ1's benefit grew by 10 inches in just 4 days. So that's pretty impressive stuff for him. But
still a
we may have done a little bit of a rewiring job, which seems to have impacted our broadcast at this point.
A little bit.
Anyway, we'll just get along with it.
We're on track. All right. So obviously, the floor is yours tonight, guys. Obviously, we've got a couple of things we want to talk about, which we'll go through if we need to. But obviously, the questions are there for you guys to ask, and we will attempt to answer.
An impromptu episode.
It could be dangerous.
Maybe we'll start with a little recap of what's gone on over the last sort of week or so, AJ.
Sure.
In the trading card world. So big stuff going on at the moment. Obviously, the National Card Convention over in America.
Yep.
Which I believe is the biggest card convention in the world.
NCC.
The NCC just started today, and it goes until Sunday, or started Wednesday US time.
Yep.
A few big highlights out of there. I saw a LeBron rookie auto, I think it was, sold for...
Hang on, James. These are important questions.
4.3
How did the monitor get smashed?
Look, Wade.
How did the monitor break? It's all flowing through here. Good questions. Still mysteries.
AJ seems to think it looked like there was 2 impact points that had been shot by a BB gun, in fact. So some pretty serious accusations were thrown around about the screen.
Well, I did ask whether there was some flailing legs.
I'll tell you what, one thing I do know, they are not having screen issues down at the NCC, where a LeBron James card, I believe it was, sold today for... It was $4.34 million US.
Nice.
Transacted between a stall holder and a attendee at the NCC.
Yep.
I also saw PSA came out after 2 hours. So
they're doing walk-up submissions.
Yeah, so PSA set up this situation for walk-up submissions whilst they were set up at the NCC, so they would physically take your card off you rather than having to send it in. It was a way to get past the backlog and all that sort of stuff. So a bit of VIP treatment for those in attendance. And I saw after 2 hours, they put out an announcement saying that their forecasted, they had reached already 80% of the week's forecast for the entire convention. And as a result, after a couple of hours on day one, they were closing the submissions already. So a lot of people have talked in the last couple of weeks about the NCC being a real barometer for the state of the hobby at an international level, and especially with the international products like your NBA and your NFL and whatnot.
Yep.
And other international sports cards. And by all means, I think day one numbers look huge in regards to attendance and interactions and stuff like that.
Which is certainly going to be some good markers, because look, we've certainly talked not only on air but also off air that there is the standard NBA dip at the end of season where people kind of lose a little bit of interest and then they want to do other things. So seeing that a conference like that leading into NFL season, that there's still lots of strength and more to the point, people walking through the door.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we'll keep following it. Obviously, we'll keep our finger on the pulse, but I'm sure some more interesting information and about attendances and whatnot and sales will come out over the next few days as well. And I would like to think by the end of the week we'll have a really good indicator. By the end of the weekend, we'll have a good indication of what's actually going on there.
All right, so it's all about you guys. So let's get into the questions. Glenn, I'll answer this one carefully. I want to know if you know of any violence coming from card trading or deals. I know it's not the level of US sports, but people still get angry and upset. No is the short answer. I don't know of any.
Look, I'm not aware of any physical violence. I've certainly heard urban myths that, people have had things stolen and stuff like that. Obviously, you see a lot of unveiled threats go around on social media and whatnot. But certainly, Glenn, I think you're probably making a bit of, I suppose the trigger point here, pardon the pun, but the trigger point's probably what you've seen with Walmart and stuff like that going on in the US, where there's literally been armed robberies in the car parks. Yep. People fighting, shootings have taken place over people trying to access NBA cards and everything.
Yep.
So a few things is, one, culturally, we're very different to how they are in the States. Two, we don't have access to the firearms and whatnot. And I think in Australia, there's good old-fashioned biffo, so people have some words, someone punches each other, and then they go drink a beer together.
Yeah,
so it's just different.
And I think, it's just different too. And I think there's certainly an element of people that feel, like with a lot of communities, not just trading cards, people feel comfortable behind a keyboard.
But it's also, I think, culturally,
Yeah.
we're different. America has huge issues with, huge issues with financial level for different individuals, and a lot of people living below the poverty line, all that sort of stuff. So it's
clever question.
Interesting question.
Clever question.
Interesting
Glenn,
question.
start.
Next.
Wade, in Jenks' defense, my TV always mysteriously breaks when I need a larger one. Well, funny you say that. Only literally that day before, Minx was saying how he wanted curved monitors. So it could be a little bit of a...
No curved monitors,
yep.
Yeah.
James, the big Frio collector. Good question here, and I'm only joking, James, before you get upset. Cristobal question, do you think if lockdowns are a thing of the past next year, will footy card hype settle down a bit or continue to grow? So I think there's two parts to that. First of all, I think lockdowns will definitely continue in some fashion next year.
Yeah.
Australia's just so behind the curve with
vaccinations. But also, I think the next concern is going to be that the mutations and the variants, and we're certainly not epidemiologists over here, but
I'm definitely not.
Yeah, I'm definitely not either. I know some people in that area, but I think the COVID situation will be with us the way it is at the moment for a period of time. You would think probably another 6 to 12-ish sort of months
at least.
However, I think up until probably 2025, 2026, or even forever, the world as we know it has changed in the way things function. We will have been conditioned over a period of time by our surroundings that...
All right, well, don't drift too much on the question. So the short answer is yes, lockdowns. But regarding the footy card hype will settle down, that was obviously looked at really heavily after the big lockdown last year, and obviously probably being a bit more Victorian-based. It's a little bit of an epicenter for it. But I think what happened is it's been a perfect storm that COVID helped accelerate the collecting of not only footy cards, but lots of other things. But now there's such a critical mass of people doing it.
Yeah.
It's showing, lockdown or not, there's still a huge appetite for it.
I'm pretty certain if we go back and look at the metrics and our data points, is that the period that we went through basically between January and June this year, which is when basically nobody was in lockdown Australia-wide, it was the biggest growth for AFL, biggest 6-month growth period for AFL cards we've seen. So we talked about the second half of last year, or sort of basically March to December last year being a huge period, and a lot of people were attributing it to COVID, and we attribute some of it to COVID. We think COVID was an accelerator, but the interest in trading cards and alternate collectibles was well and truly taking place before COVID kicked in.
Yep.
COVID pumped it all up, took it right out there, got people who were on the sidelines who got exposed, got into it. But I don't know. I know my opinion differs to a lot of people. I don't think that lockdowns are the key motivator for what's driving trading cards. I think it's a shift. It's a mindset shift, and it's also cyclical in terms of the demographic and the age group, where a lot of people, our sort of age group, AJ, who were big into cards in the late 80s, early 90s when we were younger, all of a sudden they're at a point in life now where things are attainable and we've got money to spend.
And I think it was just one of the contributing factors to the perfect storm of cards, not only AFL but NBA around the world, just growing.
Yeah.
All right, we'll keep moving.
All right.
James Taylor talking about LeBron cards in his 2020 and 2021 Noir sneaker spotlights worth chasing. I'm certainly no NBA expert. I see Mario did say, they're huge cards at 5K each.
So I'm not an expert, but I know the sneaker spotlight cards were obviously
Minx talks about them all the
They
time.
were the subset that everyone loved and a lot of people
Yep.
chased, and that was the big stuff everyone was chasing in NBA breaks last year. I would say that given the demand on those, although I'm presuming they've dipped as well, and Mario will be able to say if that's the case or not, presumably they've dipped off with a lot of the rest of the market at this point in time. The season's over. It did reach some pretty high ceilings and stuff.
Yep.
But I would think that the sneaker spotlights, because they were so well collected, would be a set that maintains value over time.
I think any LeBron card at those kind of levels that shows that what's being selling now, they're probably not the worst investment, would be my guess, but certainly no expert.
That's a good question.
Yep, that's exactly where I'm moving to now. So Rewalt 12, what needs to be done to get the newer collectors interested in vintage AFL cards? Well, I mean, we've certainly talked about this and not predicted, but certainly saw the trends over this in the last couple of months. And we talked about it many times on the show, that as people start collecting a current set, they then look to get more motivated, interested, and they start back collecting teams or players or subsets or things like that. And I think that's the natural progression as you have a bigger base of people collecting different things that organically they push back to go and collect older series. I think things that like there was a true sign for me, and actually I haven't even said this to you, but when Brilliance got released, I remember we looked at the checklist and all the current day player cards were all pretty obvious. But I looked at some of those older players or the vintage players and I'm like, gee, I just don't know if they're going to be popular. I can say I was wrong.
Well,
many people wanted to collect the subset of the veterans.
The veterans are the ones
So it shows there's a clear hunger for that.
Yeah.
But then again, it also contradicts a little bit about what happened with the high flyers in Dominance 2020, where it was similar players, but they were not as desirable.
Well, they were hot out the box, like everything sort of is, and then it slowed down. But I think, like, I suppose the question relates to things like your Scanlons and your Cornies and all these older cards that predate Select, and we'll call them the pre-modern era cards. And it's an interesting one. Like, you know, for me, obviously, I'm trying to get all those cards for my Saints Master set. However, my priority at the moment is still being Select and getting the Select stuff out of the way whilst gap filling the others, but not as a priority. I wonder, though, does it beg the question of the new collectors who come in now and maybe from a slightly younger demographic, are they disinterested from the outset in the older style cards because they're not shiny and they're not serial numbered and they're not?
I mean, there's definitely an aspect of that.
They're not exciting. Like, it's really interesting. I reckon there's a lot of people, and a lot of people that be on this stream right now, and certainly within the collectors community, who would much prefer their old Scanlons or their Cornies cards over any modern day card. Whereas for me, I can look at my display and I acknowledge that my 63 Scanlon St Kilda card is worth as much, if not more, than a lot of my super low numbered, exciting, low print run modern cards. But to me, if I had the choice of the house is burning down and I've got to pick a couple of things, that 63 Scanlons, which is super rare, is not at the top of the list of the ones that I actually would probably run out of the house,
and I think,
which is really interesting. It's just a psychological thing.
And I guess that gets down to the thing of people, as much as we talk about the business of cards, collecting is an emotive thing. And I know for me, example, you know, I've talked about many times, I love my Dusty's Footy's Finest card. It was one of the first big Dusty's cards I bought. I think it's beautiful to look at. That doesn't mean I don't love the current ones as well. But that card holds a special place. So, you know, I'm probably going to be, if my house is on fire, I'm grabbing that first before I'm perhaps grabbing a marquee or something like that. So I think there's different motives of why people want to go back and collect, but I think, you know, Rewalt 12 from YouTube, that's definitely the natural progression of how people go and look at those vintage cards and move to them. Matt Thuma, who do you think will be the next Dusty level individually chase card? Now, we all know what James is going to say.
Maybe we just set the scene for this. What's going on with Dusty that a question like that would even come to light?
Dusty is obviously, you know, everyone talks about the Richmond tax and the Collingwood tax that's been around. And then there's the Dusty tax, where it seems to be any Dusty card is at its own level of pricing. Some of it absolutely insane. But some would argue that if you're trying to do some sort of parallel comparison to perhaps NBA, maybe does he become a LeBron or a Jordan, where not necessarily achievement, I don't want people to jump down my throat, but people want to cheer for Dusty that don't barrack for Richmond.
Yeah.
And it becomes a player that becomes super popular. Kind of maybe a little bit like Gary Ablett, I guess.
Yeah.
And maybe Lee Matthews in the, Tony Lockett we've talked about as
Yeah.
well. So, do I think there's going to be other players? And to answer your question, for me, off the top of my head, I think Sam Walsh is going to be one of those players.
Potentially,
That I think that if they can get the on-field success, he is so young and in the right profile.
Yeah.
And there's enough people collecting cards that he could be someone that could be really, really popular.
Yeah.
I know you're probably going to say your boy, Seb Ross.
Yeah. Here's the thing, like I would almost say maybe Max King over Jack Steele becomes that sort of player.
Max
if
King,
he can become that absolute superstar that kicks a record amount of goals and a forward that wins a Brownlow or something in the modern era, something like that.
Yep.
It's hard to say, but the other thing is the players ultimately need to be from big clubs and they need to finish their careers at big clubs as well.
and the club needs to have success.
Yeah, the club needs to have success.
In
and
some
it needs to have, in some
so you can
way,
have
shape, or-
personal accolades
Yeah,
and club
yeah,
success,
there needs to be club success.
which obviously Dusty has had
There
both.
needs to be a legacy almost.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and history.
So good question.
Yeah, good question.
but-
Probably we're both in agreement. Probably Sam Walsh is probably.
Yeah, I think it's a bit early. Like I see Petrarca getting mentioned. I think, again,
It's just if someone like a Warple reaches true potential.
and so those guys, again, they need the success as a club and they also need
Petrarca's probably a bit old to get to it. He's
I think
too far
Melbourne
behind
would
where
have
Dusty
to.
is.
Yeah, Petrarca's a bit of a weird one. And again, I'm not, it's not taking away from any of those players. You just, it's going to be very hard for someone to rep. Like Luke Hodge
Yeah,
was kind of like Dusty.
yeah,
Premiership captain, successful,
Yeah.
lots of awards, all that kind of stuff. And you look at his influential. That is,
it's not
The
just Dusty's
price
success. It's the look, the image, the
Yeah.
bad boy tats, and all that sort of stuff. Like,
Yeah.
there's a lot to it. It's what happened early in his career.
Yep.
I think the Dusty thing is a story that it's like this rough as guts bloke has gone on to
Neck tattoos,
who would
yeah.
arguably become the greatest footy player of all time, or one of.
and look, the debate's going to be on for years. And again, it's generational, cyclical. People like our parents' age, talk about, like we had a conversation with your dad the other day, how he was just saying, Lockett, leaves
Everything.
Carey, Jonathan Brown, all these guys for dead.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm trying to debate that Jack Riewold's the greatest or whatever.
Yeah. Whereas I've always maintained that Jack Riewoldt is the lesser Riewoldt.
Anyway,
Yeah.
but look, that's a healthy debate, and I guess, look, it's going to, there's so many factors for us to say. But Crystal Ball, Sam Walsh. Any players, Smokies, from getting Optimum card on the Optimum set? Will, no idea. We know literally as much as you guys do about Optimum.
Commercial in confidence as the owner of the company when I'm allowed to say.
Pretty serious. But we don't know anything else. So
We don't know.
your guess is as good as ours. But generally, those cards, all the top end inserts from Series 2 are generally all the.
Well, Series 2,
The
you're
written
effectively
players.
going to have the draft pick signatures from whoever the leading draft.
But the top end cards are going to be the good players that everyone
Yeah,
wants.
we would like to think there'll be something that's the equivalent of a dominance card number to 50, 60, whatever it may
Yep.
be, or equivalent of a high flyer, and then
Yep.
equivalent of like your big SIGs and stuff. So, yeah.
I'll leave that. I'm not leaving it, but just Mason Jack. Okay, I saw today's highlight milestones and went to Select's comments about the case cards. Select is saying that they will do case cards next year. Does that mean the 300 gamers who got a highlight this year will get a game card as well? So yeah, look, we obviously touched on this last show or the week before,
We did both.
and it's good that Select have been clearly. Well, thank you for listening to me.
Yeah.
I assume
I took your
next year.
feedback.
Yeah, I assume next year the way it's going to be done is it'll become a case insert, because the days of buying cases are over. It will just end up being another case insert in a Series 1.5 or a Series 2 product.
Yeah.
The highlight cards are their own separate beast. It's
Yeah.
like a series
That's
of cards.
something else. And it looks like they've introduced a milestone highlight type of card.
Yeah.
They had them a couple of years ago as well, the retiree cards.
Yeah, so it's just
Yeah.
people are very quick to say that these milestone cards are the new 300 cards. They're not. It's a milestone card
So-
commemorating that milestone, whereas a 300 game commemorative card or a 400 game or whatever
They're
it is.
called case cards.
They're
Like
case
they're
cards.
literally called case
Yeah.
cards. Like they're CC on the back of them. They're called case cards. And just for those who don't know what they actually are, So 300 game case cards, there's been both signature and non-signature versions each year of those cards, and they're not something that you'd find in packets. Where they mostly ended up was with dealers, to be honest, because up until the last year or so, your average person, unless you're a big master set collector, very rarely would someone have ever purchased the case. So it's always been the retailers and the dealers that purchase the cases. They included case cards and case card signatures, the signatures numbered to 50 and the normal case cards numbered to 200, as an incentive and almost a reward back to the dealers and the retailers to buy the cases, because a lot of those dealers are having to sell single cards, so they're opening up a lot of stock, and it was basically a way to offset it. Now, two things have sort of happened. One, the public can't purchase sealed stock in case form anymore, as we've started to discover. But two, the value of singles and the value of cards has gone up so significantly that they don't actually need that case card incentive. Now, when I say it's in a case, it's not in a box within the case. It's physically
on the top.
It's in a top loader, and it literally just sits when you open the top of the case. When you open a case up, there's a piece of cardboard, and under that piece of cardboard, between the boxes and the piece of cardboard, is that case card. So, Select openly answered the question today.
And it was fantastic
They commented on it.
that they did actually.
RGV's very own Peter Buchanan asked the question.
And they responded to it. So good. So good on Select, and thanks for jumping on social media and answering that.
No problem.
So look, don't stress on it. There's been lots of questions and lots of threads about it. Just, I think in simplest terms, just realize these milestone highlight cards and case cards, 300 game case cards, are two different beasts.
Yeah.
And to give a bit of clarity too, this year, so they did Pendlebury, Selwood, and Buddy last year in Series 2.
Yeah.
There was no one that's hit the 300 game milestone until literally 2 weeks ago. They could have. So Series 2 that's coming out, in the next month or whatever, that was built 5-6 months ago. So there was no one to do a 300 game case card for. So it wasn't that they ignored it this year. There just wasn't any to do. So there will definitely be case cards next year, as Select responded. My guess, and what I said last week on the show, is that I think it'll be a case hit.
They get inserted as case hit, like 1 in 12 box hits or whatever.
Yeah, and there's already 3 or 4 guys that have got milestones this year.
Yeah, so
there's 200, there's 800. They're going to get it right.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Right. So that's, I guess. And look, I see Peter Crisp asked the same question, so I hope that answers for you too, Crispy. But don't fear. And look, Bodie Brown asked a question somewhere tonight about the value of those sets. Look, it's really hard to say. Like, a lot of these big master sets that have gone over lots and lots of years, it's so hard to value, and also you've got to find someone that wants to buy from
historically,
scratch.
they're very hard to get.
Very hard to get.
A limited amount of people ever access them to begin with.
Yep.
And it means also there was individuals, because they were purchasing so much stock, that had the lion's share of them amongst a small group. So they are look. From memory, and I have not looked at case cards for a long time, they're certainly going to be outliers. It was generally a non-signed version number to 200, was sort of going somewhere around the 50 mark. I know there was some outliers, maybe up around the 100 mark. But, the lowest ones you would find a bargain would be maybe $30 or something like that. They were around 50. And then the case card signatures, depending on the player, was anywhere from like $250 up to like $1,000.
Yep.
The Nick Rewalt ones are very expensive, for example. I've seen them ranging 500 to 900.
Yeah, well, I mean, I picked up the Cloak case signature card. I remember at the time it was a bargain. I think I paid $350 for it. They're about $600, $700, $800 cards. So definitely the signature ones are super valuable.
Yeah.
The regular ones, look, I think it's a fantastic set. I know there's a few people that do collect them. So, great set. Don't stress.
Ashley Brown's popped in a heap of good comments I've seen, so I'll just give you a quick acknowledgement.
So I'll get to Ashley. So Dacos, everyone's talking about the Dacos brothers DPSs. So Nick Dacos is not going to be till next year. So you remember the DPSs that they do, if they do it in Series 2, are for the players that are playing this year.
When did the current Diakos?
No, he's been around a couple of years.
He's been a couple of years.
Yeah.
So there's no Dacos DPS.
So Nick Dacos next year, the brother.
Yeah.
He's going to
go. The current Diakos doesn't have a DPS.
No.
Did he get picked higher than what their other pick was?
He must have. Oh, he would have gone father's son, so it would have gone some weird
so he
number.
Doesn't get,
so no DPS.
Yeah.
But so that'll happen next year at some point. Interesting question. Let me read this out. Interesting from Ashley Brown. Interesting question. Reckon there might be a lull when he retires. but they'll jump again when he goes back in the Hall of Fame, which is likely a legend. I believe that's following up about the Dusty thing. Someone else asked earlier on, do we see Dusty cards, their prices dropping? I mean, I think there's going to be a little bit of a drop off at some point, especially if Richmond certainly starts to struggle.
It's the question.
But is it going to go to?
Yeah, it's a bigger question of what is the ceiling. I feel like
are we there?
Dusty cards have already gone. No one could predict the value of what some of those cards are going for now. Doesn't matter how bullish you were about prices going up. There's no way. But it almost feels like there is just so much demand for Dusty cards and demand across the board right now that I continue to say it. Like, each time we're seeing one of these big shifts upwards and people talk about, it's just going to fall off a cliff and crash, I don't believe that's the case. I believe we're setting new benchmark levels because the new entry of participants, the rate of new entry is so significant that there's enough new entrants who buy at immediate ask price that it maintains a new level in the market. So you could say that there's cards now going for 500 this week that as recently as 2 months ago were only going for 300. You got people sitting there that don't have them going, well, I'm waiting because I know it's going to come back to 300. But the reality is it actually won't come back to 300. It'll more likely move up to 700 from 5, and if anything, pull back down to the 5 point. I feel like the highs are setting new low, like new higher lows, basically, if that makes sense.
Yep. So in crystal ball, I'm hoping Richmond prices go really cheap so I can buy up even more Dusty cards. But the reality is probably won't happen. James, question here. Look, we've talked about.
I'm just conscious James is an NBA person.
Yeah. So that's why I'm like, James, happy to sort of field a couple of these questions you're asking. Is a jersey numbered card worth more, or does it not matter in regards to price? So for AFL, and if you want to go back and have a look at a couple of previous episodes, we've certainly talked about this. In AFL with numbering, jersey numbers and 001s can be worth sort of 2.5, 3 times the standard price. And then we've got what's known as lows, which are 01 to 09.
Yeah.
And they can be worth 1.5 times, a little bit more depending on the player.
Yeah.
So absolutely, they are certainly worth more. If you get a jersey number of a good player and a good card, they're going to be worth a lot more money.
So just to add to the conversation on the jersey number thing and the values, and for those who have stuck with us for the last couple of months actually on the pod, and we've talked a little bit about this, I have been keeping a keen eye the last few weeks since AJ posed the question to me is how do I value them? And I sort of said, well, I break it down that the more valuable the card is from the outset. So if it's a lower numbered card, if it's a card numbered to 40 and its base level price is 1,000, I think it can only go to 2.5, maybe 3x on a jumper or an 01. Whereas if it's a lower type of card, say a red or orange parallel number to 210 or 170, I think there's a higher multiple starts to apply. And I've certainly noticed that seems to be reflected in the sales and the transactions that I've seen go through over the last couple of weeks. So I definitely maintain that position. So again, for example, if a normal orange from Prestige, a normal number St Kilda card, whoever the player is going for $7, I would likely pay for an 01 or a jumper number, I would be paying probably between $30 and $50. Whereas if a marquee is $400 for the jersey or jumper number, I'd be looking to pay probably under $1,000 for it still.
Absolutely. In 5 years, I'll Jarrah a question. I'll move through heaps of these are banking up, so we'll try to get on it as quick as I can. In 5 years, do you see team coaches a little kid set or serious collectors will be chasing master sets? I mean, Jarrah, the big difference between team coach and say select is team coach is a game card, which is directly targeted to kids, whereas select is a collectible trading card. So I think there is always going to be master set collectors that collect everything. Will there be some crossover? Will team coach collectors move to select? Maybe will select collectors move to team coach?
Probably seeing a bit of both happen.
But I think that the key distinguisher between team coach and select is team coach is a game card. It's gamified for kids.
It's designed as a mass market product targeted at children, engaged in an online way is what it is. It's not designed as a collector's product.
Correct. That's the big difference.
Like with everything and like with all the other types of gaming cards that are sport or non-sport related, when there's a huge interest in the hobby and the marketplace overall, you start to see sideways movement and people move from one thing to another, just like how we're seeing all the NBA folks and whatnot moving into AFL.
And same as I've started to buy pops. Thanks, Migs.
In
You
the
know,
last few days.
people are always going to
This
look for
guy,
new
10
things.
years behind the trend line, he finally bought some pop vinyls.
And first pop I got today, I was ripped straight out of the packet, which
There
I
you
know
go.
is just like,
Oh, Dale.
yeah. So
Well,
I
we
keep
see-
moving
we
this.
see- we see that. That's not a question, though, Dale.
What's going
Well,
on
actually,
here,
it is
you
a question.
ferals?
It is a
Well,
question.
we're answering questions from the fans, Dale, and already I saw a little bit further on. Someone asked, "Will you ever smile?" Probably not. But good to have you on board, Dale. Obviously, Dale runs everything over at Cherry, and if you get your BGS grading over there, which I see a grading question later on, which I'll get to, certainly give Dale a shout out, and Cherry Footy as well.
Yeah, Cherry Footy. So,
Absolutely,
Dale, you
really
can
well.
maybe answer this for us as well in the comments. I'm assuming BGS Beckett is set up at the NCC as well, and are they taking submissions as well? You may have missed at the beginning of the show. I did just let everyone know about the news from PSA that they have closed their submissions at the show. So I wonder if BGS is copying the same demand.
Yeah, for sure. Dale obviously answered that. I'll keep moving. There's heaps of questions. Lee Brown, do you guys see a day when certain collectors won't whinge about access to boxes from Select on release day?
No, because it's not just trading cards. Like, well, that's the world we live
Whether
in.
it's sneakers, whatever.
It doesn't matter what
everyone
it
wants
is. It could be the difference between home brand noodles and Maggi noodles, and someone will complain about it. That's the nature of the way the world works. Obviously, this is the market is small and it's very engaged, and we all see it at a very magnified level, basically. So it's very prevalent.
All right. So, question here from Wade, and look, I'll read this out, and obviously I don't want to go into this too much, but I will touch on it. Put your other businesses aside, guys, and obviously we're involved with RGV, breaks and collectibles and all sorts of other things, but a break is taking away stock from kids and the general public. There was a very interesting article on the ABC or APT with Trigger from APT Collectibles in the news last week. So look, there was a thread about this which people can go and find on Really Good Vibes, where I certainly spoke my piece, and I personally think that it was a missed opportunity, probably that I'll get to that. A missed opportunity where we could have promoted things a bit better. But to talk about breakers taking stock away from kids.
So let me just pause you for 1 second.
Yep.
Before that article came out, an interview took place. That article was a takeaway from an audio interview. So an interview took place on ABC Ballarat several days prior, and then ABC decided to turn it into an editorial. And we were obviously aware. Siri again.
Yeah.
We were obviously aware. We were aware of the audio interview, and we happened to listen to that a few days earlier. We certainly didn't know it was going to come out as an article, but and we had a private conversation amongst ourselves when we heard the original audio, and just said the same thing. Like,
disappointing.
It's probably a missed opportunity where that they're asking about basically, the radio. The question from the radio station was trying to position it of why is everything selling out, I suppose. Why is everything selling out? And I just thought, like, rather than using the opportunity to promote the success of the hobby and how many people are coming into it and how many great opportunities, and people don't have to miss out, the opportunities are there.
Yep.
I felt it was a little bit targeted from one business to others.
Yeah, and look, I don't really want to get into that, but touching on the thing about whether or not breaks are taking away boxes from kids, well, the answer is no. There was plenty of stock around for weeks and weeks and weeks. I mean, we've still got starter packs of Footy Stars sitting on the shelf here.
Yeah.
There are still news agents, and again, you can read all this on that thread. People certainly talked about their news agents and 7-Eleven still having stock now. So I don't think it's a simple 1 + 1 = evil breaks. I think breaks do some fantastic things for the community in getting cards in the collection, as do online stores, as do eBay, all these sorts of things.
Everything will get scapegoated at different points in time. That's the nature of it. And you'll see, as things continue to grow, and as the hobby is impacted by demand, and the hobby is impacted by technology and innovation, you'll continue to see, as we go through transitional change, different people take different views. And at the same time, any publicity is good publicity.
Absolutely.
We're part of a fantastic hobby at a great time. And I've always said we'll all look back on this and be so thankful to have been part of it through this fantastic era, which will probably become another golden era retrospectively.
And let me also add too that, there are so many fantastic, all the people that are in the business of cards, and, Trigger at APT, whether it's Gad and Cremona, whether it's Sunshine Collectibles, whether it's EJ's, whether it's Diggers in Sydney, you know, us, whatever. I'm not, you know, there are so many people that are in the business of cards which are doing so many great things to help build and support.
And they're all critical to the ecology. And that's the thing. Like,
absolutely, we need all of them.
We're not having a go at
anyone.
The perspective of that article, like some people may be assuming. And I think our history shows, like, whether it is APT and Anthony, for example, who was the one that was interviewed, and it's from the perspective of him. We've promoted his business extensively on Card Authority through our other businesses. We've done a lot of business and we'll continue to do a lot of business in the future.
Anthony does great work.
That's exactly right.
20 years.
And that's right. And, you know, he's had his online store for 10 years, which has been a mainstay of eBay. And you've got these big players who have been around for a long time, and there's significant change taking place. But make no mistake, their contribution over the last 10 years is what's allowed the hobby to even get to this point.
Absolutely.
Because if you don't have them there, you don't have the volume being moved. The publishers and the manufacturers can't create the product. The market doesn't exist for it. And none of us can come along because there's no cardboard for us to come for. And again, I think that connects back to the breaking situation of, from a collector's standpoint, it's a catch-22 situation. You get collectors who sit there and go, well, breaks are ruining it. It's pushing up the price. It's making everything expensive. However, at the end of the day, it's not the breaks that determine the price. The market sets the price based on the demand. If the value of singles is going up, then the reality is a product becomes worth more than this packaging that it's in. So it pushes up that price. Therefore, breaks become a accessible way with a low barrier to entry for lots of people to get involved, but to get involved in getting just what they want and not the rest that they have to then turn over. Breaks, more importantly, is I said to AJ before the show tonight, because we thought this was actually going to come up. We knew at least a few people would probably raise this question because it's been a hot topic. The reality of the situation is, and we're going to look at Certified 16 as a real life example. There's no hypotheticals here. There's no speculation. This really happened. Certified 2016 was not a successful release when it came out. It literally, not a huge amount sold to the resellers or the retailers, and a lot of what did ended up getting returned, either back to Select or to the distributor. That product sat for years and years and years on pellets. In reality, I paid more for a Jack Stevens certified signature than I paid for any other Players Inc. or any other type of certified signature for any of those releases. And this is in 2020. I didn't buy the card till last year. And I didn't buy it because I could never actually find one. And I couldn't understand why I could never find one. And then I began to realize, well, the reason I've never found this card is because all the stock is sitting unopened. So as a collector, one of the hardest cards for me to complete my set at that point in time was simply because it wasn't opened. And then what happens? The product starts getting broken throughout mid-2020 and the Jack Stevens start popping up. And what was really funny is I think I paid $50 or $60 for one, and then I ended up picking up a low number for $30 6 months later.
So I guess the key sort of, you know, and we've probably gone a bit long-winded, and Jenks loves to talk, as we all know. But the key thing is, in my opinion, if boxes are being broken and open, there's more cards in the ecology, the ecosystem. People can then build their sets. So whether it's that Select is distributing more boxes directly to consumers, or flippers are buying them and selling them so more boxes are open, or whether it's breaks or whatever it might be, all we want as collectors is the cards to be open. So then people can get to them. The pricing and the demand and that stuff, that works itself out in the long run. You know, people will either buy it or they won't. Anyway, I've got so many questions here. I've got to keep moving, James.
The case cards and case card 6 are another good example from Certified 16. They were impossible to find until the product started getting open.
Because the case weren't open. This is a little. We actually talked about this. Hayden Bradford as AK. I was actually AJ works at Select. He doesn't work there. He owns it. How long till we get a mark of the year or a goal of the year predictor of Footy Stars? I think I've spoken to this about past.
That's a great idea.
It'll never happen.
That is cool.
No, it'll never happen.
Conceptually, it's cool, but I don't think it's viable.
Because it's a voted on award. It's not like a Brownlow or a Coleman that's actually data driven. Goal of the year, I think, and mark of the year is voted on by fans, and it's all a little bit dodgy.
Okay, so it can be manipulated.
And that's probably why they won't ever do a Rising Star one.
But they did have. There was previously. They're not predictors, but there was goal of the year among
There'll be cards.
There used
So
to
they
be.
won't do
I'm
redemptions.
trying to remember. I think it was around 2011 or something like that. It was like a silver subset, the equivalent of a highlight, basically, is what they had.
So Stephen Costello, how about the grading of AFL cards? Seems to be more people doing it nowadays.
It's kicking off.
Grading's
We're
coming.
seeing it.
We've
The
talked about it
the
for
bubbles
ages.
are there. The bubbles are just starting to come up, Stephen. You're seeing it. We're seeing
And I'm
it.
sure Dale will certainly say that he's noticed more of that coming through Cherry. I mean, we've talked about grading when we will continue to talk about grading for ages. I mean, I've graded cards, so has Jenks.
Yeah.
It's coming. It'll happen. All right. So give Dale some happy hippos.
Luke's question's a good one.
Yep. Luke Hoyle, why do you think there's a big price increase for 01 and jersey numbers in AFL where US Sports is not mentioned? I think the numbering aspect, and again, Luke, we've talked about
general numbering, and then that transferring into the importance of particular numbers, where because grading hasn't been such a big thing.
Yep, it's been number focused.
Short print in AFL is only considered on the basis of serial numbers.
Yep.
So you wouldn't look, like let's look at a silver prism. People know silver prisms are reasonably short print. But in AFL, for that card to have value, it needs to be numbered.
Yep.
And then that transfers then into jersey numbers. I think it's because it narrows a chase, basically, Luke. I think it starts off as it narrows a chase. Then all of a sudden, one person has something that no one else has. And as we all know, everyone wants what someone else, what they can't have, sort of thing. So that's what's created that.
A question from Robert. If PSA and CGA are so popular with up to 12 months waiting for graded cards, is there a need in the marketplace for another company to start up? Is the process of grading very technical? Have you guys thought about startup? Obviously, look, we have a whole different range of ventures that we explore.
Yeah.
There's no secret we looked at it.
We looked at it
12
months ago. Yeah, we did 12 months ago. And we did a lot of due diligence into it.
We're certainly not experts on grading. That's not to say we won't look at something in the future, but we've got something we're talking about at the moment, which we'll talk about in the future. But we won't be doing grading ourselves. It's just not our expertise. And at the moment, we don't need to sort of go in that.
Wado, don't stress. We're not taking it as directed at us, but we saw it as a good opportunity because AJ was quite public in his commentary of what he thought about the situation as well. So it was a good opportunity for us to clarify.
And people can go and see that thread. It's on Really Good Vibes. Go and check it out.
And here's the thing. There's no right or wrong way. It's absolutely subjective. The factual side of it is that more cards get out into the marketplace, more product gets opened at a faster rate, which therefore should allow people to complete collections sooner.
Yep. A jumper number of Footy's Finest came out this week from Certified. If boxes are not getting busted, these cards won't come out. Absolutely spelled on, Pete. And certainly there is, we've still got a little bit of Certified in 16 and 17. There was a huge, if say 30% of it got open when it got released, I reckon 50% of it got open last year.
Yeah.
Because as the sealed stock got destroyed, people were looking for other things to break, premium products. There wouldn't be that much of it in the wild that's not opened.
No, you would think you'd got to be down to probably
sub 10%.
Both. You think maybe 50 cases, less than 50 cases out there.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We haven't seen much around for a long time.
No.
The last case that we bought was off Select last year. So it's been a long time.
Well, and that's the thing. People don't realize you could still buy cases of Certified 16
in December.
December at retail price, which was $2,800.
I can't remember. Well, whatever it was, we bought two of the last few cases.
We bought a couple since then. But that's right. Wado, is there any actual reason to get a card graded? It always confused me because I see base cards right through premium cards, even outright rubbish. What's the theory? Again, I think with NBA, because there wasn't the same sort of number.
Not just NBA, all international product, the quality of the product and the confirmation that it's a real and a short print real version, and the population, proof of population basically is what gives it resale value. So a lot of it's on the basis. So you got two ways of thinking here, and sorry to steal your thunder, but one side of it is people trying to increase the value of cards for resale or investment purposes. The other side of it is people wanting protection for their cards and guaranteed protection in a physical nature. So a lot of people aren't happy with a top loader or one touch. They actually want their whole collection slapped.
And that could be for looking after it, because obviously it's airtight. It might be for display. It might be for resale and value. I think the grading aspect and the increasing the value of mid to lower range cards, so they become a little bit more unique with populations.
Yeah.
Again, we've talked about that in depth, but
Yeah.
we're just not there yet with AFL. I think it's getting really close, and obviously CGA, there's heaps of cards pumping out of CGA, but we'll see what happens. You know what I mean?
Just check out.
Yeah, in a sec.
Sorry.
Yep. I was going to get to that. First of all, how many goals are McKay and Kerno going to kick this week against the Saints defense? Well, I'm hoping none, because I'm sweating a Jack Rewalt Coleman
I've also
predictor.
got a Jack Rewalt Coleman predictor as well. And
Yeah.
I'm still confident that Max King can kick 25 goals each week. Then
Probably
he's gonna
not.
He's going to get
So,
it.
Graham, I know you're a big Blues man, but hopefully 0. I hope they both run into each other and don't do any serious injury, but are just confused.
Saints have got a shorter back line as well.
2 questions here, very similar. Glenn, what we saw with 16 and 17 was a slow sale and then massive boom for supremacy in 19. Where is all of 18 legacy?
Okay, so 18 Legacy sold out at the time.
Yep.
And presumably people who realised how hot the future Hall of Fame subset was going to be
Yep.
probably, banked a bunch of cases. But yeah, again, just to give some backstory here, certified 2000, Honours 2014. Let's go all the way back. Honours 2014. And I'm very sorry if anyone from Select is watching, Grant, Robbie, or otherwise. Honours 2014 was not a great product.
No, of course
It
not.
bombed super hard. They made the adjustments they needed to in 2015. Honours 2015 was successful.
Yep.
Over time, it sold out. It may have taken a year or two, but it eventually sold out at a distribution level. Certified 16 came out. It bombed. It was underwhelming. Certified 17, they bring out the influential, give it huge value. It sold out over a period of time. Now, it did take a couple of years, but it's still sold out.
Yep.
Legacy 2018, recipe for success. First product to sell out within the calendar year in like a decade or whatever it was.
Yep.
That sells out. Then the next year comes around. Footy Stars is already hotter than what Champions or Footy Stars had been before, whatever it was. It's 2019. They introduced dominance. Captain signatures are back. Products hot, sells out within a few weeks.
Yep.
Supremacy, then 2020, and it's just.
And
you
look, I'll certainly say, like, I know when I was backfilling my Richmond set, the legacy cards were certainly the harder ones to get.
because they were already tied up. Yeah.
Well, I mean, the Future Hall of Fame was lucky to get, but I mean, trying to get the hollows and stuff like
hard to
that.
get in terms of price. as
No, they
well.
just weren't around.
Oh, yeah.
They weren't around. I eventually got them, but
Yeah.
they certainly weren't around as much. So I don't know whether someone's sitting on a heap of cases,
Yeah.
or it just doesn't
So there's
exist.
definitely a lot. It's out there. There's no doubt it's out there.
So Aaron, you've asked a similar question, so I hope that answers that. Marty, where do we see 2021 Optimum case reselling if anyone gets one? Well, first of all, we don't even know what the case or the box price is. If we assume that it's
Let's
the
work
same-
off last year.
let's work on the same. So
Yeah.
they were what, $2,800. I mean, the way things are going, it's going
It's like $265 a box or something.
234, 230,
At
2000,
retail.
or 240. Yeah, 2,800 divided by 12.
Okay. It was was it 2,800 was the retail
Yeah.
price last year?
Yeah,
RRP or
yeah.
something like that. Okay.
I think it's like 234 bucks. So do I? I would.
Depends what's in them.
It depends what's in it, but being the fact that the evil breakers want them, I would say it's probably going to double in price. Like pretty much every release, and how much further it goes is all going to depend what's actually in it. But I mean, no one knows.
It's fair to say you would think that if the last 12 months is anything to go by, it's going to get snapped up in seconds off Select's
Of course.
website.
Yep.
It's going to disappear very quickly. It'll be on eBay that within hours and probably double the price.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think so too.
In saying that, it can't just keep going up because it's got to reach
There's
a
a
point where
ceiling.
it's unbreakable.
Well, and I'll give an example. Dale, I'll get to your question. I put it on the screen here. We talked about this with Dominance. The Dominance was a $2,800 case.
Yeah.
It got to $5,000 a case for
Yeah, 5,500.
Well, yeah, and
Yeah.
then it crept to 55.
Yeah.
A few people held out thinking it was going to go 6.5. It became unbreakable and
That's
unusable at 5,500
That's right.
and kind of dropped back to 5,000.
Yeah.
So at that basis, it didn't even double in price.
Yeah.
Again, it's like cards are. It can only go so high because people are only going to. The market will dictate how much they
But
want
that's
to
the thing.
spend.
But that's also that idea that in people's minds, breakers just clean up. Like,
Yeah, they don't.
again, full disclosure, we have Dominance that we picked up secondary market at that very high price point late
Yep.
last year. if you've been in our breaks in the last couple of weeks, that's exactly what it is. And we are literally getting our money back on it, and that's all.
Yeah, we don't.
And we've had to sit on it for 9 months.
Yeah.
For 9 months later, we bought it at the top of the market. And that's a decision that we made at the time. And that's just what happens.
Yeah, but again, that's the point. Like, there's, I don't really.
It's like, if you bought boxes of NBA Prism 2 months ago on pre-order and paid $800 for them, and you're a breaker, but you can only break them right now at $450. You're taking the hit. So the money you made off Noir a month ago is irrelevant.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean?
All right, let's move on.
Yeah.
Dale's question: do you reckon if the 001s that were always available, that they have extra value now? So like keeping them made people think they are special. So now everyone wants them. I think they'd be worth a lot less now if you could get them all along. I mean, it's an interesting question, but the 002s were valuable because they thought they double
first off the line mindset.
And there has been talk, and I'm not speaking for Select here. You can speak for Select, but they have certainly said over the last 12 months, even on that Cardboard Addicts or whatever, Cardboard whatever shows, that they're going to look at ways of perhaps putting them back into the ecosystem down the track.
Yeah.
So again, I'm only speculating. Next year is their 30th anniversary, is it?
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw some older cards come out. Again, I'm just absolutely guessing.
Show me to find out quickly. I'll find out.
Just check your email.
Yeah. Mr. Copley. Mr. Copley. Yeah. So what's happening with those sorry, guys. Commercial in confidence.
So look, it's a good question.
It's a good question, though.
I think 001s, again, it's a very much an AFL thing. It's not an NBA thing. They're always going to be popular.
So my pre-2017 or pre-2018, 2018 is when the 01s got introduced. Before then, 02 was technically the first number in circulation. Dale, to be honest with you, don't know if I should be proud of it or not. I've paid the same money for 02s pre-2018 as what I paid
because they are
the current 01s, because I view them as the same. Now, if Select goes and puts the 01s into circulation, well, I don't know. I still love my 02s, but it's going to be frustrating. I'm going to have to go find all the 01s. I'm going to have to go find all the 01s.
All right. So this is a good question from Steve. Let's get serious. What happened to the monitor? Jenks, tell us. This is your chance.
I don't know. I may have been shifting. I may have been shifting some lights around, and the only logical explanation is if someone wasn't snipering me from a few hundred yards away. Is that I knocked them?
I don't know.
I don't know. But who cares? Because now we've got the 32-inch that I'm staring at right now.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
That's a good one.
Can't get a 2018 Pendles Future Hall of Fame or a Refractor Pendles. I imagine they're probably being hoarded by somebody.
A lot of them came out, and presumably because there was so many less people participating in the hobby at that time, the cards would have been a lot less valuable than the modern pricing, and as a result, people who collected bought up a lot of them. We're seeing a big trend of bulk collecting taking place at the moment. It's nothing new. The only difference is people used to be scared to advertise what they were doing or show off what they were doing. It was almost like you couldn't be proud of your collection because people would despise you and call you out and abuse you for collecting multiples. So, yeah, it's always happened.
Jay, will there be limits on how many boxes everyone gets? Well, I mean, that's what they've been doing so far.
I think we said last episode we're looking at similar production run to Prestige. We would think similar sort of limits.
Well, historically, it's less for Series 2. So if you could buy 4 for Prestige, when there was 700 cases, and if it's the same as last year, it was 500 cases.
Yeah.
So maybe it's 3.
Maybe it's 3. 3 and 1.
So there's going to be some limits. Who knows what it'll be?
Selector Club.
Yeah, well, it's like SSC.
I still think they should have called it the Selector Club.
Missed opportunity.
Yeah, missed opportunity.
Do you think you'll be able to buy cases from Select? No. No one will be able to buy cases from Select.
I think Select has been pretty open in saying,
it's not happening.
They've been saying at least to dealers, to retailers, that from a public standpoint, the days are really gone of cases.
That's
it has been that way for a year already. Yeah.
I can't get a Norton. Well, Glenn, I can't help you. Sorry.
Norton's been hoarded since the first day his cards were ever released.
Generally by his family.
Yeah. There's still the 01 on the rise on eBay, though.
Do you want to see cards numbered lower than marquees in Footy Stars and Prestige? We've talked about this a couple of times too, James. We think the sweet spot is about 40, and we talked about this in detail the other week.
We did.
There will be some cards, we presume, in Supremacy that are going to be 25, which is similar to the 2019 release. I can't see them getting any lower.
I think our general consensus is we both agree, and we don't always agree on things, but we both agree that 25 is the absolute minimum point. It's always been the minimum. It's shown that it's a minimum, but we also believe now that 25 is starting to become too low at this point because there's so many new people in the hobby and so many new people coming in. So Supremacy is going to be really interesting with, Premiership Brownlow double signatures and booklets. If they're numbered to 25 and if they do them both again,
They're going to be hard to get.
it's going to be, that's going to be really, a real tough
Open
chase.
Mike Knight and AJ's bringing in the comedy. I mean, he's a funny guy. I get to see the show every day.
There you go.
But James, but James also, don't worry, you'll be able to get low Freo cards. You'll be right, mate. Is Buddy, this is from Crispy, is a Buddy PC realistic, or are these prices going to go bonkers once he retires? Well, I'd already argue that Buddy is pretty collectible now
So
anyway.
Buddy gets prices for a player that would be at a Victorian club for Sydney.
Yep.
His prices are disproportionate for interstate clubs, basically.
Yep.
And that's a reflection of people liking him as a player and wanting to buy his cards or collect his cards and have those cards.
Absolutely.
I don't think there's a huge amount of speculation going on here at the moment for people who are
Whoa, we just lost our screen.
for people who are speculating or investing.
Yep.
But I certainly, I think it could be one for the future. Could be one for the future, like a Nick Nat almost as well.
Yeah, I think, look, Buddy already has quite a strong Hawthorn fan base that have followed him across the Sydney. I know a lot of Hawthorn collectors that still buy his Sydney cards.
Mm-hmm.
There is a trend once someone retires that their value does drop a little bit in cards. Buddy's going to be a really good case example for that because I think he is well collected at the moment.
Yeah.
This is from Corey. Do you know where I can get milk that tastes like real milk, Jenks?
Got milk?
No, Corey, I don't. Sorry, my wife does work for a...
So AJ only does almond milk these days. He was onto soy for a while, but now he's moved on to almond because he felt that the soybeans feelings were getting hurt each time he took a swig.
Coke Zero is my drink of choice, and
I'm not kidding, guys. Like, I'm saying this straight down the camera with a very straight face. This bloke declared to me, the bloke being AJ, who I'm pointing at, that you can see over there, right there. That guy declared that he's never actually had a glass of water before, and his entire water contents comes out of Coke Zero. And in the time we have spent at this place, this premises we are, which is about 6 months now or something like that, or thereabouts, I've only ever seen him drink Coca-Cola, like Coke Zero.
Coke Zero.
He's never had water. We have slabs of water and slabs of sparkling water. Not once, ever, anything.
Yeah, well, it is what it is. My body's a temple. From Shano, do you collect cards only or other specific memorabilia? Well, I won't speak for Jenks. I've got other memorabilia. I've got heaps of Richmond stuff that's signed. I mean, now I'm collecting pops. Thanks, Minx.
Yeah, I've got loads of memorabilia. I've got lots of sports memorabilia, lots of St Kilda memorabilia, some old soccer memorabilia. In the early and mid 2000s, I went through a stage of just like wanting to buy up lots of memorabilia from auctions and whatnot.
Are we about to get raided?
That's Sherry.
Okay.
Is it? So I was buying up a lot of memorabilia. So I have heaps of stuff. Jerseys, all sorts of bits and pieces, but I also have a lot of music memorabilia. I'm very fortunate in my other line of work
Absolutely.
to have some very unique pieces.
Yep.
Yeah.
We'll cover that. Yeah, come here, mate. Waito, this is a nice little bit of humour there. You said that. Is it a coincidence that Optimum and Prime front is near identical? Surely one-for-one cards of players transforming into a team robot mascot. Very possibly. Optimus Prime for people that don't get the inside joke. How many ways? So, Danny, good question here. And, considering you own Select, you can certainly answer this.
Sure.
How many years away are we from another licensee?
I don't know. I feel like the licenses are so tightly held. I would have thought over the last 12 months, given what's transpired, that's probably the time period that people would have gone hard at the AFL and all sporting codes to try and get new licenses up. I think the fact that we've seen nothing happen over the last 12 months is probably an indicator that it's status quo.
I just don't think the market's big enough.
Yeah.
It's just not big enough. And I think that you're going to see some new things probably with NFTs in the future, which will obviously offer some different things. I just don't think the market is big enough for multiple licenses at the moment. And I imagine Select would hold on to their license pretty tightly.
Yeah, and Team Coach with their game card license as well, for that matter, as well.
So good question, but not sure. Oh, here we go. I think Jenks is going to be in trouble here.
Oh, the ice pole sticks.
Watched old episode the other day of Adam teaching how to
Excellent,
pack
Robert.
cards properly using icy pole sticks. I'm using this method now and it's still current, as I reckon the concept is great. Absolutely, and I think it's called inserts episode.
Yeah, inserts. Cardboard school.
So you
inserts.
basically get a
Yeah.
card and you put a loose paddle pop stick one way, another one away, and it's just engineered so tight. So it's a fantastic way to pack cards. Yeah, try it. It's cheap if you don't have cardboard. Icy pole sticks.
Yeah, and just so you know, so Robert, I think I did talk about it when we did that as well. I received something off eBay packed that way, and at first I thought, I was like, how's this guy taking the piss? And then I took it out of the package and I was like, no, this guy's an engineer or something
Yeah, it
for
was
sure. It was absolutely genius, and I haven't packed cards for a long time. But you know what? I'm going to make sure. I'm going to get the Minx on.
I was going to say, you're going to make
We're
sure the
getting
Mix does it. Yeah.
Yeah, Matus is going to get some break mail out.
We're very lucky we
Last
don't really
week
have to pack cards
at the
anymore.
moment.
Yeah,
yes.
we're lucky.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, great episode. Go back and check that if you want to see how to do
But on a serious
redemptions
note,
for Select
if
and
anyone,
also-
redemptions or how to pack cards and how to send, pack and send, go back and check that out.
Richo, I'll take this with tongue in cheek. What do you guys think about breakers that always find the need to talk themselves up?
So he's talking about AJ1 clearly here, because we know that AJ1 is the greatest.
Settle.
He's the greatest there ever was.
Settle.
The greatest there ever will be at life.
No, but this is going to tie in nicely. And look, Richo, we're happy to talk ourselves up regardless of whether we're breakers. But that segues nicely into Dale's question. Do you think breaking could be at the Brisbane Olympics?
Oh.
I mean,
We've talked about, Dale, I haven't even told AJ about the live conversation that
we'll talk about that off air.
you, me,
Yeah.
and Jules had on a break the other night. Yeah, we're doing the break Olympics. You just don't know about it yet.
All right.
I haven't filled him in. I'll fill him in afterwards. I totally forgot about
We'll
that.
circle back to you about that, Dale. Next episode, good to see AJ's Man Cave. Well, when Shane asked that question before, if we collect things. If you ask my wife, she would say I just collect a lot of shit in my office. It's literally like a dungeon full of stuff. That's why I always hang out here.
Yeah.
Jenks's Man Cave is very impressive. It's just got like full life-size posters of Seb Ross.
Yeah, mine's
with stains all over them.
That's right. Mine's like, very man cavey. His is more Fritzl Chamberish, and that's
All right.
that's about
Do you think the AFL will ever move into sticker signatures? Maybe, Marty. Stickers were huge sort of in the 90s.
Does Select still have the license for stickers?
I imagine they would. Yeah.
That is a good question. We'll take that question on notice.
Ask Grant.
Hang on one sec, guys. Mr. Copley, come here now. Excuse me, sir. What's happening with the stickers? Oh, sorry, guys. Commercial incompetence.
All right. So look, we're
No, I don't know.
We'll
Assume that they're going to bring back.
we'll
the
get this
stickers.
winding down nice and clear.
Stickers are awesome.
But yeah, the stickers are really awesome. So look, thank you very much, guys. Obviously, Sher's come in here to audit us.
If anyone's never seen Daniel Sher
This
before,
is the
that
great
Daniel
man,
Sher.
Daniel Sher.
He's
He's
come down to visit
the
us.
brains, the operation, the number one.
Maybe
Geelong
the
collector.
other major shareholder of Select.
Maybe.
Who knows?
But if you do anything wrong, good vibes.
He
Sher's the
looks
one
like
that's
Jack
gonna pick up.
Rewalt. That's what they
There is a
said.
bit of Jack Rewalt.
We'll get you some signatures if you want.
Also, if you've seen Billions, Sherry's been, spending a bit of off season. All right. So look, last question here. We'll wrap it up because we are hitting the 70-minute mark. Is it worth insuring high-end cards? How would insurance companies value them? So the short answer is yes. But let's hold that for next episode because you do insure your cards.
I insure my
So
cards.
you could run through everyone the correct process of
Yeah.
how to make sure insuring's done properly.
Yeah.
Let's not try to squeeze
Yeah.
it in now.
No, all I'll say is if you don't want spam about insurance for cards, don't sign up to Beckett's website because all I get from them is an email about insurance every day.
Yep.
Anyway, we'll come back to that one next week.
Yeah, we'll
It's a
hold
really
on. Great question, Luke.
Really
Great question.
We'll talk about contents insurance.
But look, thank you very much, guys. Obviously, it's a lot of fun always doing these questions with you. I know it's just mixing it up a little bit while we're in preparation for next release. I did see someone ask earlier about when we think Optima might come out. I mean, we don't know the dates, but generally, as a general rule, it's about a 3-week lead-in time.
Yeah.
We haven't even heard when previews are coming.
Well, so normally the first preview normally then indicates
It's like a week,
more. Well, the previews take a week. They normally take up to 10 days.
and then SCC,
And then you have a week plus
and
a
then
week. So
shipping. So
we're going to go out on a limb and say 3 to 4 weeks at a minimum.
yeah, absolutely. That's
3
my
to 4
that's my
weeks
guess
at
one
an
too.
absolute minimum from
Yeah.
now. So plenty of time for everyone to go backfill their sets like I'm doing at the moment.
Absolutely. And we're going to talk a little bit. We've talked about a little bit. We're going to talk about player collecting and how you can get those lists and good process and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. Lots of fun. Always great answering your questions. And we're always happy to answer questions any show, but it was nice to be able to make tonight just about you guys. Jankovic, you've been amazing as always. Grant, thank you. Cheers, Grant.
Cheers.
And,
Cheers.
and of course, Jack Rewalt, thank you for coming in.
For those who are taking it very seriously, no, we don't own Selector. I don't own Selector. No, Grant Copley is not in the other room. He's actually on the other side of that door over there.
Good night, guys.
See you
Thank
guys.
you. Catch you next week. Ciao.